Hello, everybody, and welcome to another edition of Greet the Week. I'm Jan Moray, and here is my co-host, Mona Duncan.
Hello, hello.
And we also have a guest with us today, and we'll just let her, and we have two guests. Another one just joined us, so great. We love having guests on these episodes here. So thank you for joining. And today's topic is the brain and mirror neurons. All right, we're going into neurology here. So Mona, take it away.
Well, it is neurology, but it's old stuff. How that the old saying, monkey see, monkey do, and what it is that we are seeing something that looks like fun from our point of view, and so we begin to mimic it and to see if that is really it or not. So I thought we would talk a little bit about that today. And I want to start off here. I'm going to share my screen so I can just show you a couple of things to be patient with me. I'm learning all of this. So, okay, I have to put share screen on. So what we're going to be looking at is, the old saying, reading, writing, and arithmetic, if you're familiar with that. And I'll share the screen. There it is. Can you see it? Okay.
There we go. There it is.
Okay. Well, first of all, reading, writing, arithmetic, it is not real grammatically correct. And that, especially in my age group, but I think it's not just my age group, we have a tendency to look and say, well, the kids today and your people today are not like they were when I was growing up, and all this kind of stuff. And we're going from so we'll look at all their text and this LOL and nobody knows what that means and all that stuff. And yet, I look back at that real old familiar saying, reading, writing, and arithmetic. Well, actually, writing, starts with a W, and arithmetic starts with an A. So maybe, anytime we are complaining about someone else, that we're looking at their mirror, maybe we're realizing that, maybe I resemble that remark also.
Yes.
And so here I have another one. Tom Westfeld, who was doing a expose, doing his interpretation of Dr. Glasser's book on positive addiction, because I was looking at the fact that sometimes we copy what someone else is doing and then it becomes addictive in us. But anyway, he was looking at Dr. Glasser's positive addiction and the 3 R's of it, which is realism, responsibility, and right and wrong. And how much better our life can be whenever we get realistic, or I would change it to reality, R-E-A-L-I-T-Y, reality, responsibility, and doing the right thing. And then I have one more little thing here, and that is Charlotte, when she knew what we were talking about today, sent us this little saying from Dr. Glasser that says, old dogs can learn new tricks, but someone has to teach them.
Definitely someone has to teach. And we're all old dogs, no matter how old or how young we are. And we can always learn new tricks. But if somebody doesn't give us a little bit of guidance, we don't really realize that there's something we could learn to do.
Right. And so I saw this in this cute old dog new trick.
I like that new trick.
And sometimes the tricks we learn turn out to not be so good for us. So this is going to be my last one until the very end, when I want to share something else with you, is that we're all old dogs. Thanks, Jan, you are so right. We're all old dogs. But how do we learn these new tricks to set ourselves up to do that? And so here are 2 key factors. One is we increase our perception of choice. Rather than, this has become a habit now, and it's realizing we have so many choices to make, and we can continually make them, and then have a structured process for relearning.
Okay.
That structured process. So I thought we would just talk a little bit about that today.
Okay, that sounds good. We do have so many choices. So many times we think that there's only one way, and we're stuck, and there's nothing we can do. And as long as we're starting with that mindset, we're not going to think of anything else. But if we start with the mindset that okay, I'm in this situation. I'm not real happy with this situation. What can I control? What little piece of it can I affect? And you just start with little bitty steps. We all want to be able to solve something totally right away, but sometimes it's just those little bitty steps, little things can add together and create something really big for us.
Right. And last week, we talked about our senses.
Yes.
And the 5 senses, that we're all familiar with, starting from grade school on. And it was one of our guests, help us to that they're now 19. And I've been doing some research on that. I find it so interesting. And really what it is, it's like the same sense that's just to many, many different degrees and different layers of.
Mm-hmm.
Such as the sense of feeling, and that you can feel that there's a pain in your body, and your foot itches, and so you automatically reach down to scratch that foot, and you don't even have to look to see where you're scratching, because it's how our body is so designed to work with itself and to heal itself and to care for itself, to nurture itself, that it's automatically going to reach for that itch without having to get a map to see where the itch is. So the point is that all of these senses are so multi-directional. They're so multifaceted. One of the neuroscience and the mirrors electricity stuff, David Eagleman, says that our senses limit our perceptions.
Okay,
let's just talk about the sense of smell. I was cutting up a watermelon the other day in the kitchen, and my husband, who was all the way in the living room, he said, "Ooh, that smells so good."
Oh, wow. He smelled it from that far away. Sounds like my dog. He knows whenever I'm cutting fruit in the kitchen, he comes right there begging. But I didn't know he could smell that far away.
And we've even talked about how the fact whenever we have one sense that is damaged some way, the other senses become more acute to make up for it. Right. And it's part of our multisensory and our mirror neurons and so forth. But that we don't think anything about the fact that our animals can smell when we're cutting up fruit.
Yes. Yeah.
And so the truth of the matter is our sense of reality is limited by our senses, because we can't see, we can't hear, we can't see beyond our scope. But as we can begin to realize, and also, I do not know who said this, but I love it. It's talking about the cortex, the frontal cortex, and what all it does and all this. And the particular person that said that the cortex is a one-trick pony show.
Okay.
Which basically, it can only do what it's seeing that mirror neuron do in someone else or someone else. And so as we expand our horizon through communicating with other people, through reading other books, through going different places, then we are nurturing and giving our senses more things to see.
Yeah. We're helping them practice, right? I've talked about practice so many times. And once we start using something, then it becomes more sensitive and more alert, more aware of what goes on around us.
Right. And practice becomes what? Permanent? Well, it does when we keep practicing the same old thing and think that we can't change. Such as the way we think, about ourselves, about someone else, about what he said, she said, about what they meant. If we keep practicing those same things over and over and over, it does become permanent in us, but that doesn't mean it's reality. Correct. It doesn't mean it's really what the person is thinking. And so, as we begin to expand our horizon, and as our brain, the monkey see, monkey do, gets caught up in doing those same things over and over and over, what is really happening is we're just living life by rote.
Right. And we're not thinking. We're not really using our prefrontal cortex. We're just allowing our brain to go into autopilot.
Exactly. And it is that our brain can teach itself. I was about this one, a person that had a brain injury, literally a brain injury, and was falling all the time.
Mm-hmm.
And so they put the glasses on her that was a virtual reality where she could see things differently,
Okay.
and she could walk without falling. But
Wow.
when she took those glasses off, she could take 1 or 2 steps, but then would fall. So they put the glasses on again and would walk around a little bit and take them off, and she could take 3 or 4 steps. And the doctors that was working with her were astounded, and one of them even made the comment, "Is the brain learning?"
Yeah. Yeah.
And I love that.
Yes,
The brain is always learning.
It does. It always adapts to how things change.
And so, our point 2 there was that they have new exposures to different things for those mirrors to pick up, but then also have that structured learning. Now, I know for myself personally, in looking at some exercises and balance and so forth, I don't know if you can see or not, but if you put one foot in front of the other foot and stand really straight, and then you take your hands and you put them on your shoulders and you close your eyes and you stand there for 30 seconds to 45 seconds. And if you can do that, supposedly you're going to live forever.
Well, I'm thinking right now, I don't know if I could balance doing that right now.
Well, I'm telling you, I can't, to the point not with my eyes closed. Right. Even putting one foot in front of the other and then doing this and then standing, it's very awkward. And I feel but I've been practicing this literally.
Really?
Practicing it 2 to 3 days a week to stand for 30 seconds without falling over. And now I've gotten to the point where I can close my eyes for a few seconds. And so I lean up against a table or a chair to balance myself so I can do this. But while I'm doing that, here's my point. While I'm doing that is I am literally giving my brain new pathways to go. As I'm letting it, I'm consciously in the moment telling myself that it's learning something new. And we can begin to heal ourselves in so many ways. Yeah. Whether we think about something that was said to us that is still destructive to today, as we go, well, maybe I misunderstood. Or even if it was true, am I still that person, or have I changed? Or as we give ourselves some structured way to see things differently.
Well, that's something so powerful about all this work in neuroscience that's going on now, is that we can change. I mean, our brain, well, they call it neuroplasticity, because our brain can change, and we can change those old habits. We can change our old thinking. I mean, it takes time, it takes effort to get there, but we definitely can get to that point.
That neuroplasticity, that it is still, even in older age, younger age, even in
right.
still is soft enough that it can change enough, but it changes even faster as it has a new mirror to look at.
Okay.
A new mirror to look at, whether it's an experience, whether it's reading, whether it's the psychology of choice theory, the theory that everything we do really is a choice. Our thoughts, our responses to, that anger is a choice. Now, that's not to say that what has happened is not anger producing.
Mm-hmm.
But if we get to that point that we're exploding over it, it's because we're choosing to get upset over what was said or what wasn't said. Or
right.
And so we can help that plasticity to mold more quickly as we have new mirrors to look into.
I mean, I'm one of those people guilty of getting angry quickly. But I have noticed, since practicing choice theory and practicing it in a good way and to try to change myself, that I notice that those same things don't annoy me, don't anger me as quickly or as intensely. Let me say it that way, because you still feel that emotion right away, but it's not as intense because you're starting to tell yourself that it's my thoughts that are creating that anger inside of me. It's not what the other person did. I mean, I'm still feeling the anger, but now I know a little bit more how to handle it and how to deal with it.
Right. And it's looking at everything. I mean, life is all about so many seeming contradictions, you know, love, hate. There's that, how can you love someone that, oh, there's so many things about them you dislike? And it's because, well, we are complete. We are whole and complete. We're always searching for, it was Carl Jung that said, we all want to be healed. We also want to remain broken.
So we don't want to admit that, but there is some comfort in remaining broken, definitely.
There is some comfort in that. And then if we remain broken, I mean, if I heal too much, you may expect me not to get mad again.
Right.
If I heal too much, you may expect me to go to work every day.
Yeah.
You know, if I get too much better. And so there's something about it, maybe in that self-preservation, that we don't want to measure up. And it's as we begin to realize that we have that potential within us to grow, to learn more, to be more.
We do. We do have such great potential within ourselves. And a big aha moment is understanding that you do have that potential. You can affect change. You can do things differently and react to things differently.
Right.
And you can change how you're thinking, even though you may not want to.
Right.
Because that's where you have to start, right?
Yeah.
I have to start thinking, you know, what am I thinking? You know, and how is that thinking hurting me? Or how is it helping me?
Yeah. And how's it hurting me? You know, it can be, is it raising your blood pressure?
Yes.
Yes. Yeah. You know, sometimes we don't even think about those things.
Right.
And yet there's so many sayings, you know, these old sayings that are still new and relevant, such as no pain, no gain.
Mm-hmm.
And that's usually in the marathon running and or in the health thing. Well, if you're not in pain, then you're not gaining.
Yeah.
And sometimes as we can realize, all that what was said to me, what was done to me really hurt. But, oh, maybe it hurt because they had a point to it.
Yeah.
That I'm not wanting to hear.
That's right.
That I'm not wanting to see. That I'm not wanting to understand. And as we can begin to, you know, so as I can embrace that pain, maybe I can really learn something and I can gain. And I can gain an understanding of me. I can gain an understanding of the person that brought that pain out or that exposed it. Because what if we had a debilitating disease and nothing showed up? There was
right. Well, the pain is there for a reason. It most definitely is. Because like you said, if we didn't have pain, I mean, that's what tells us when there's something wrong with us physically, is we get a pain. I mean, those people who cannot feel, who can't touch and don't feel things, I mean, they're dangerous to themselves because they don't know when they're put their hand on a hot stove and it's still going to burn them, even though they can't feel it. But the same thing goes with emotional pain. That we get that emotional pain for a reason as well. And sometimes we try to numb ourselves so that we don't feel that emotional pain. But then we're not getting the signals we need. We're not getting the warnings that we need. That emotional pain is there for a reason.
Mm-hmm. And sometimes if we can't understand pain, you know, if we did not understand up, we couldn't understand down.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, those opposites. And so sometimes we're searching for happiness, looking for happiness, whatever that is. It's kind of elusive.
Yeah.
We see it in pictures, or we see it, or we think we see it, and you know, think if I had it, it would work. And then maybe we get it and it didn't work. And so we're still in pain, we're still unhappy. But if we don't understand the unhappiness, how can we understand the happiness? And there's a lesson in everything, you know. And so fire, you know, you don't have any feelings in your hand, so you touch fire and oh, it hurts. And so that fire, that hurt, is saying stop, don't touch that again. But then time goes by and you realize, you know what, I need fire. I need it to cook with. I need it to warm with, you know, so we're not cold all the time. So we begin to look at it in a different way. That how can I work with that fire in a way that's for the good of the whole? how can I respect it in a mature way?
Yeah.
And it's the same thing with pain. What's the message of that pain?
Yeah.
What's it trying to tell me about me, what I'm thinking, what I'm doing, how I am reacting to rather than responding to?
Mm-hmm.
And as I can begin to realize that this person that is issuing that pain, or at least I'm seeing them as issuing that pain to me, as I can begin to look at the fact that, you know, this is a human being that has infinite worth and value, and how can I heal that so that I can respond in a mature way?
Yeah. You know, I was thinking about that the other day. There's a lot of unhappy people, and I just call them unhappy people in this world.
Right.
That they just cannot be satisfied, and it's almost like their mission is to be miserable because they're miserable. And I guess that's another thing about mirror neurons. When you feel that negative energy, and you know that it's not that they're in a bad way, and then you end up starting to be in a bad way, and you have to make the effort not to respond that same way.
Right, exactly. Or, you know, we remember those things. Like maybe as a child, maybe we did spill the milk and someone looked at us like, you know, with this frown or something, and we encapsulated it.
Yeah.
And then we begin to see that same negative expression in our own mind, whether it's really there or not. And in transference, we transfer it on to others, you know, because we were so young and so tender, and that fire was so hot, that cross look was so impressionable.
And those images, those feelings that we had as children and adolescents, they carry through to adulthood sometimes too. You find yourself in a situation you hadn't been in a long time, and all of a sudden, well, maybe it's back into a family situation, and then there was some family member who you did not have a good experience with, and boy, all those emotions come up again, and you're like, whoa, that was 20 years ago. Where are all those
Where's
things
that coming from? Because our bodies store our memories.
Yeah.
I had a client, or well, it was someone in a class that I was teaching the other day. We were talking about feelings and emotions and how our bodies store them. And many times what we are responding to in something else or reacting to in someone else is something that we've stored that we've never settled.
Yes. Yes.
And so this one guy after class came up to me and he was telling me about an incident that whenever he was a child, he was wounded physically as well as emotionally by an elephant.
Oh my goodness.
I know. I don't know where they were. I don't know, you know, what it was, but anyway, he was stepped on by an elephant. And but he was a kid. He said he does not even remember it other than the story of what his family had told him about it.
Wow.
And anyway, he was talking one time with he had a life of sadness and unhappiness, and he was working with the counselor, and he told the counselor something about that incident, you know, and he said, and I don't even remember it. And the counselor told him, he said, look at your leg. And he looked at his leg, and he said he was moving his leg like this. He was, you know, trying to kind of bring it back and was sticking it under him.
Wow.
And the doctor taught that psychiatrist, that counselor, that life coach told him, said, your body is remembering that.
Yeah.
It's held that memory for you.
And that's what we do with those negative memories that we don't want to remember. Some part of us does remember.
And I don't believe we can ever remember them all.
Yeah.
You know, have you ever, well, looking at the Johari window, you know, where there's those 4 windows, there's what's open to, there's what's hidden, there's what's secret. Well, all those things that we keep secret, or what's in the hidden or the secret, is things we don't know about. And that's part of our genealogy. It's part of what happened to us, what didn't happen to us. You know, and it's some of those things that are hidden from us are our gifts and talents that we have, but we can't see them in ourselves.
Or we're choosing not to see.
And we're choosing not to see them. Yeah, yeah. So how do you handle that? Well, on any of those 4, you know, as we begin to erase that things that I've kept hidden and be more open, then I'm more open. And as I begin to go around and look at those things that I'm blind to because someone is especially family members, can be so faithful to point out our flaws.
Yeah. They remember even if we forget, right?
And rather than own it and say, well, maybe I am stubborn, or maybe I am, as we begin to go around and look at that, because they keep bringing it up, and then we can be more open and honest about it. And so I believe that as we begin to erase down those two, begin to tear down those two walls that we've built, that those things that are hidden. Well, have you ever used one of those little keys that you can put on toothpaste that will roll it up as the...
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Well, I imagine those hidden things, whether it's an elephant stepping on you or being afraid of lightning, as I was for years as a child, until I had an aunt that gave me a new mirror. But it says, let's sit out on the porch and watch it. It's in the distance. We're not going to get out there and stand under a tree.
Yeah.
It helped me to not be afraid of lightning anymore. But I believe as we begin to take care of those things that we're holding secret because we don't want anybody to see that we have a, we've covered it up pretty good. We got this makeup on, but there's something there that we don't want anybody to see. And as we get honest with those things and begin to realize, maybe I am the way what our brother keeps saying about me or whatever, that hidden part, I think it's like osmosis.
Yeah.
It permeates through and comes through. And then we can begin to, whether we ever know the depth of it or not, we can begin to say, you know what? That happened when I was a kid, but I'm no longer a kid. And I can see lightning in a new way from a safe distance.
Right.
Rather than being afraid of the thunderous thunder that is after the fact anyway. And it's beginning to see all those things in a new light. But sometimes we need new mirrors around us.
We do, and be open to see new ways of looking at things and new ways of doing the things.
Right.
So sometimes we're just closed to it because we're so stuck on the things that haven't worked for us in the past, or the things that are unpleasant in the past. We don't want to think of something that might work for us or look at it in a different way.
So the key factor, we're getting close to ending our time, and I want to share one more thing. Let me put my screen share here.
Okay.
Is that, and then I go share the screen. Okay. So we looked at the fact that we can learn new tricks, but sometimes someone has to teach us. Or we have to teach ourselves by going to new places, reading new books, seeing new things. Two key factors in our mirror neurons is to increase our perception of choice, and it's structured learning. And so I look at the fact that we talk about all the new things, and there is a lot of new things, but there's nothing new under the sun. That if we didn't have the wavelengths that we could get the Wi-Fi, we wouldn't have the ability to have Wi-Fi and all that stuff. And so we go back to the mystics. And here is a poem was written by Sir Lawrence Vanderpost, and it was in a film called Hasten Slowly. And I have it on your screen if you want to read it with me. It says, there's ultimately only one thing that makes human beings deeply and profoundly bitter. And that is to have thrust upon them a life without meaning. Well, I'd like to pause here because my initial thought in looking at this is habits that we think we can't solve, pornography, addictions, hoarding or wanting or gambling or all this kind of stuff. And, but I can't get rid of that. So I hate that stuff. It's everywhere, but I can't get rid of it because I need it too much. Maybe we have thrust upon ourselves a life without meaning. It says there is nothing wrong in searching for happiness. And there isn't, that pursuit of happiness, go for it. But far more comfort, there's nothing wrong in searching for happiness, but of far more comfort to the soul, to our inward being, is something greater than happiness, even greater than unhappiness, and that is meaning. Because meaning transfigures everything. And once what we are doing, thinking, acting, feeling, responding, once what we are doing has meaning for us, it is irrelevant whether we're happy or unhappy. We are content. We're not alone in our spirit. We belong.
Yeah.
Whether anyone understands us or not, we're we're who we are. And that's not to be ugly, hateful, in your face. I'm going to be stubborn whether you care or not. I'm not saying that. I'm saying it's looking at the fact that people respond to us. You know, it's those mirror images. As we begin to relate to others, we kind of lean into them.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's leaning into, it's realizing that we all have infinite worth and value.
We do all have infinite worth and value, and that is so important, and so important to find meaning in your life. And if you're not finding it in what you're doing now, look around. There's so many other ways you can spend your time and things you can do, places you can volunteer, get different jobs, or even just being more with family. I mean, you're gonna know when you're doing something that's meaningful because you're gonna feel it. It's gonna feel good. Right.
And then practice that.
That's right. That's the thing you practice. The things that you feel good. So
yeah.
Well, Mona, thank you for taking us down that route today. I think our time is up here, and more food for thought. So thanks everyone for joining. Thanks to all our guests. We appreciate having all of you on here, and we'll see you again next week. All right. Bye-bye.